This story delves into dark themes. Reader discretion is advised. What you are about to read explores the depths of obsession and the horrifying consequences of blurring fantasy and reality. It is a cautionary tale about the dangers of online infatuation and the seductive nature of personalized content. Proceed with caution. Jeremy was a gamer. Not just any gamer, but one who found himself deeply entrenched in the digital realms. His days and nights blurred together as he immersed himself in the virtual worlds that offered him an escape from reality. He lived in the digital world, finding solace in pixels and polygons. The vibrant colors and intricate designs of these virtual landscapes were a stark contrast to the dull and chaotic reality he faced every day. Real life was messy, complicated. Bills piled up, relationships were strained, and the weight of expectations bore down on him. In the digital world, however, he could be anyone, do anything, and escape the burdens that plagued him. Video games offered an escape. They were his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself and forget about the troubles that awaited him outside his room. He felt a connection to the characters, particularly Tracer from Overwatch. Her vibrant personality and unwavering optimism were qualities he admired and longed for in his own life. Her energy, her optimism, it drew him in. She became more than just a character on a screen. She was a beacon of hope in his otherwise dreary existence. He felt seen, heard, even loved in a way he didn't in his everyday life. The virtual world provided him with a sense of belonging that he struggled to find in the real world. He craved that connection, that validation. It started innocently enough. He would spend hours playing, chatting with other gamers, and sharing his experiences online. Fan art, fan fiction, and online communities became his new social circle. He found comfort in knowing that there were others out there who shared his passion and understood his struggles, the usual online rabbit holes. But as he delved deeper, he began to encounter darker corners of the internet, places where fantasies took on a more twisted form. But Jeremy's interest grew more intense. What started as a harmless escape began to consume him. He found himself drawn to the more forbidden aspects of the online world. He stumbled upon Rule 34, a dark corner of the internet where no fantasy was off limits. It was a place where the lines between reality and fiction blurred, and anything was possible. At first he was hesitant, disgusted even. The content he found there was shocking and unsettling, a far cry from the innocent escapism he had initially sought. But the allure was too strong. The more he explored, the deeper he was pulled into this dark and twisted world. It was as if the forbidden content held a mirror to his own hidden desires and fears. It offered a twisted reflection of his desires, a dark mirror to his loneliness. The virtual world that once provided solace now threatened to consume him entirely, blurring the lines between his reality and his fantasies. He found himself drawn deeper into this world, a world that seemed to pull him in with an irresistible force. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling before his eyes, revealing a hidden dimension that beckoned him closer. He discovered SpriteShark, an anonymous creator whose identity was shrouded in mystery. This enigmatic figure seemed to exist only in the digital realm, a ghost in the machine, crafting content that was both mesmerizing and unsettling. Their animations were hyperrealistic, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Each frame was meticulously crafted, each scene a masterpiece that left viewers questioning what was real and what was an illusion. These weren't just videos, they were experiences. Immersive and all-consuming, they transported viewers to worlds that felt as tangible as the one they lived in. Jeremy found himself lost in these digital landscapes, each one more captivating than the last. Jeremy felt a connection with SpriteShark, an understanding that transcended the digital divide. It was as if SpriteShark could see into his soul, capturing his deepest fears and desires in their art. They saw Tracer the way he did, with hauntingly realistic eyes that seemed to follow him, to understand him. It was a connection that felt both intimate and unsettling, a bond forged in the digital ether. He felt a thrill, a sense of danger he'd never experienced before. It was a rush, an adrenaline-fueled high that kept him coming back for more. The fear was intoxicating, the danger addictive. He spent hours consuming SpriteShark's content. Days bled into nights. His work suffered. His relationship suffered. But he didn't care. He was hooked, a digital junkie chasing the next high, the next thrill. He had found something, someone who understood him. Or so he thought. The digital character seemed to mirror his emotions, to empathize with his struggles. It was a connection that felt real, even if it was just pixels on a screen. He didn't realize he was falling into a trap, a carefully crafted illusion. The world SpriteShark had created was a web of deception, a digital maze designed to ensnare the unwary. And Jeremy was caught, a fly in the spider's web, unable to break free. Then came the messages. At first, they were subtle. A line in the video description, a hidden message in the animation itself. "Jeremy, I see you." His heart raced. Could it be? Was SpriteShark talking to him? It was impossible, insane, but deep down a part of him wanted to believe. The messages grew bolder, more frequent. Tracer, his Tracer, speaking directly to him, telling him he was special, that she felt it too, the connection. It was intoxicating. He was no longer just a viewer, a consumer. He was a participant in this twisted fantasy. Then came the request. It began subtly, whispers in the videos. Tracer expressing a desire to be with him, to break free from the digital world. Jeremy dismissed it as part of the fantasy, a harmless kink, but deep down, a seed of unease was planted. The request grew more insistent, more desperate. Tracer claimed she needed his help, a way to cross over, a ritual. And the price? A life, a human life. The words hung in the air, echoing in Jeremy's mind. Terror gripped him. This was madness. He had to stop. He tried to pull away, to close the laptop, to shut it all out. But he couldn't. He was in too deep. He told himself it was just a story, a game. But the fear was real. The doubt gnawed at him. He argued with himself, with the entity on the screen. This wasn't Tracer. It couldn't be. It was sick, twisted. But the voice, her voice, pleaded with him, promised him love, happiness, a life together, if only he would make this one sacrifice. Days turned into sleepless nights. He was trapped in a nightmare of his own making. Guilt and desire waged war within him. He knew what he had to do. He had to walk away, to get help. But the thought of losing her, of being alone again, was unbearable. He tried to rationalize it. It was just one life, one insignificant life. What did it matter in the grand scheme of things? He was chosen. He had a destiny. He was delusional, lost in the depths of his obsession. The night of the ritual arrived, cloaked in a silence that screamed in Jeremy's ears. He had lured her here, a woman he'd met online. She was nothing to him, just a means to an end. He could barely look at her, couldn't bear to acknowledge the humanity in her eyes. He followed the instructions, his hands shaking. He chanted the words, his voice a hollow whisper. He felt a coldness seep into the room, a presence. The air crackled with energy. He had done it. He had crossed the point of no return. The screen flickered, the animation distorting, twisting into something monstrous. The air grew heavy, the stench of decay filling his nostrils. This was not the Tracer he knew. This was something else, something grotesque. A clawed hand shot out from the screen, followed by another. The creature pulled itself free, its form shifting, solidifying. It was a horrifying mockery of his desires, a twisted reflection of his obsession. Panic surged through him. He had made a terrible mistake. He scrambled back, tripping over his own feet. He had to get out to call for help, but the creature moved with unnatural speed, its claws tearing through the air, catching his arm. The pain was blinding. He screamed, the sound lost in the suffocating darkness. He thrashed, kicking, fighting with the last vestiges of his strength. He managed to break free, scrambling towards the door. He fumbled with the lock, his fingers slick with blood. He burst into the hallway, screaming for help. His voice echoed through the dimly lit corridor, a desperate plea that seemed to bounce off the walls and fade into the darkness. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of the terror that chased him. His neighbors, startled by the commotion, rushed to his aid. They emerged from their homes, their faces etched with concern and confusion. The air was thick with tension, and the sense of impending doom was palpable. He could hear the creature's enraged roars behind him, but he didn't dare look back. The growls grew louder, more menacing, as if the beast was closing in on him. His legs burned with exhaustion, but fear propelled him forward. He was safe, for now. He leaned against the wall, gasping for breath, his mind racing with thoughts of what had just transpired. The temporary relief washed over him, but he knew it was fleeting. But the nightmare was far from over. The shadows seemed to move, to shift, as if they were alive. The eerie atmosphere clung to him, a constant reminder that the danger was still lurking. He had unleashed something terrible into the world, a creature born of his darkest obsessions, a manifestation of his deepest fears. It was a mistake that could never be undone, and he knew with chilling certainty that it would not stop until it claimed what it believed was owed. The realization hit him like a cold wave, leaving him paralyzed with fear. He had sacrificed more than just a life that night. He had given up his peace, his sense of security. The weight of his actions bore down on him, a crushing burden that he could never escape. He had sacrificed his sanity, his soul. The torment in his eyes was unmistakable, a reflection of the inner turmoil that consumed him. He was a man haunted by his own creation. The price of obsession had been his humanity. He stared into the abyss, his gaze hollow and devoid of hope. The man he once was had been lost, replaced by a shell of despair and regret.